Hi, and welcome to an explanation of analytical method number 1, implicit to explicit. What we're going to be doing is trying to figure out what's kind of slightly hidden in text or somewhat folded away in terms of the meaning of the text. And let's start out by looking at a sentence from the South Carolina State Constitution written during Reconstruction in 1865, outlawing slavery. The sentence says, "The slaves in South Carolina, having been emancipated by the action of the United States authorities, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall be duly convicted, shall ever be reestablished in this state." Now, looking at this, if we're trying to figure out what meaning is hidden away in this, we want to avoid two errors. And the first one is going to be just basically taking something that's already explicit, that's already directly stated, and rephrasing it. So for instance, if you said, based on this sentence, that slavery will no longer be legal in South Carolina, that's not really something implicit that you're drawing out. You're just restating what's already on the surface and clear. Now, you could go in entirely too far in the other direction and finding some kind of extended implication of the sentence. For example, if you said that white Southern disagreement with Reconstruction will mean that the North will eventually have to enforce Reconstruction through military force. Okay, maybe that's true, but that's kind of an extended observation. It's not hidden beneath the surface. It's in an entirely different. If you're looking for fish beneath the surface, this fish is an entirely different lake. So, considering those two things to avoid, what can we find that might be implicit in this? Well, the first part of the sentence, "The slaves in South Carolina, having been emancipated by the action of the U.S. authorities," if you start out with that is, while not directly stating, it seems to be making clear that those who wrote this sentence do not agree with what comes next, namely the abolition of slavery, because they're putting responsibility for this change on federal authorities as opposed to state authorities who are writing the Constitution. It's kind of like if you have a mean brother and you got in a fight, and then your brother comes back to you and says, "Well, Mom says I have to say I'm sorry, so I'm sorry." Well, implicit within that is the idea that your brother doesn't think he's done anything wrong. Maybe somewhat more extended, the idea that not only does he not think he's done anything wrong, but he plans to do it again, because the only reason he's having to apologize is because Mom is making him. Same thing with this. Implicitly, we can see that the writers of this part of the Constitution don't see slavery as a moral problem, or don't see the abolition of slavery as a government law that is good to work towards. Now, there are some other possible things you could that might jump out at you. In any sentence, there might be multiple implicit meanings that you can draw from them. For example, in this one, the clause at the end of the sentence, the idea that slavery and involuntary servitude can be reestablished as a punishment for a crime whereof the party is duly convicted. To me, that implicitly says, it builds on what we already think we understand, that the writers of this consider slavery to be not so much a violation of human rights, but a punishment for wrongdoing, the kind of thing that could be used to shape people's behavior, and like the threat of enslavement will could hang over people, and make them behave in what's considered the proper way by the writers of this Constitution. However, once you take that idea, you go and look at, say, the 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution uses exactly this same language, and that was written by actual abolitionists who thought slavery was a moral wrong and wanted to get rid of it. So considering that extra bit of information, we can see that maybe what we thought was implicit in this sentence turns out to have not been there at all. And that's okay. Sometimes when we try to find something in the text and we draw it out, make it explicit, it turns out that we misread the situation. But what's important about trying to find what's implicit and making it explicit is that by making it explicit, you give yourself the ability to go back and check and see, was I correct on this? So, something to keep in mind. All right, I hope you got that, and have a fine day, and keep working on your analytical methods.